Oh yeah, she's that country girl who overcame the stigma that Southern women are barefoot, backwoods, and backwards. Now she's an articulate voice for conservative values and wisdom in America. Sitting on her front porch sharing common sense, here's Marnie.
Hi, welcome back to my front porch. I'd like to continue that conversation we've been having about government and the best place for things to be governed is at that lowest level possible. And if you want to take a look at one of the hot button topics of our day, immigration, you could get off in the weeds about immigration, talking about, everything from detaining children separated from their parents, whether these people ought to be allowed in, all these different things. You can get off into all of that kind of stuff. But you're missing the real point. What you're missing is the long-term goal of those who want to erase borders. And that really is the objective, to destroy national sovereignty. Because if a country can decide who comes in and comes out, that's saying that they are sovereign, that they have a set boundaries from which they can operate within. When you have borders, you have countries. If you get rid of borders, you don't have countries anymore. You have one world government. And through this kind of globalistic governance, you've got people off in Korea telling people in Kansas City, what kind of classes their kids need to be taking in school or how to manage their community. And it's ineffective. We've already talked about how totally ineffective this is. But those who have this long-term view, and they've been working on this New World Order, this global government objective for decades. And you've got to understand that the people who are for these top-down governments, very strong top-down governments, they've got a very long-term view. They're very patient, they're methodical, they have an agenda that they're working for. And if you look on my frontporchsense.com site, you'll see an article in there about progressives and how they're working a game plan that was put in place actually by what used to be called communists. We think communism is dead, but it's not dead. It's just changed its name. So these moves towards socialism is still to eventually lead toward this communistic, top-down sort of micromanagement of our lives by big government. And these people, they may change their names, but they're still doing the same thing. They're still running for the same objective. So their objective is to create this global government run by them, where the rest of us are basically slaves. So if you think about it, how much is anybody in, say, Korea going to care about your child in Kansas City? They're not. And they won't even care if they need to enslave your child in order to pay their bills or to get their free stuff. Even Americans enslave Americans wanting to get their free stuff. We think we've got our entitlements and everybody ought to have a cell phone or everybody ought to have this or that right. Every day there's a new right that Americans think they have to have. We're willing to enslave our future generations for this free stuff. Don't you think other countries are going to want to enslave you as an American for their free stuff? They won't think twice about it. They don't care. My son is getting ready to go on a mission to Guatemala, and just in preparation for it, we have to get FBI background checks and this apostilla form where we have to go to the local police department and prove that he hasn't been arrested for anything. He's going to have a visa. He goes through this very complex process to get into Guatemala, okay? They have rules. Guatemala has rules about whether you get to go in their country and how long you get to stay. Every country has rules. And that's just the way it's got to be to protect the sovereignty of a country. If you erase the borders and you go to this top-down global government, you're going to have mismanagement and tyranny like you have never seen. There's two things that you have to remember. The first is that the left has a game plan. They've been working that game plan for at least a century, and they want one world government ruled by them. So every law, every social crisis that you see happen, you need to look at it from the perspective as what is their game plan? Where are they going with this? It may seem that the next step that they're taking looks pretty benign, maybe just a little edgy, but it's like they gradually take us like frogs in a pot being boiled alive into tyranny. They just gradually whittle and chip away at our freedoms until they get what they want. The challenge is that most Americans don't think long term, and they're counting on that, and they're using our short-term need for gratification against us. They bribe us for our votes by promising us free stuff. They make up new rights every day that they're going to protect, and in the meantime, they're just getting your votes. They're just accumulating your votes so they can go over there and implement the next stage of their one world government that's going to be ruled by them. And in the end, they will not support those who have traitored their country. When the communists came into a country after the socialists had taken over, they killed the socialists. They got rid of them. They were no longer useful. Those were traitors to their country. They expected them to be traitors to them too, and they were eliminated. There's not going to be any free lunch for all of these actors and people who want to turn us into a socialist country. They're going to be one of the first ones to go because they were too stupid to protect their own freedom. Don't be thinking that any of this is going to go well if we sit back and let these people whittle away at our freedoms. Nothing's free. Everything comes with a catch. And these people lie in wait, deceiving and just luring us down a path. Just think about that.